Hello there, and welcome to this demonstration on Zetadocs Expenses. Before we get into the demonstration, I'll walk you through a few of the personas that we'll be using today. First, we have David, who's in the sales team, who'll be submitting expenses through for approval by his manager, Kevin. Then Kevin, who's the sales manager, will get an email alert about David's expense report. He'll then go into that expense report and approve the report. And then finally, we have April, who's in the finance team, who will do all the final checks and verifications before creating an unposted purchase invoice within Business Central. So if I go over to our demo environment, you can see the Zetadocs home screen. I'll be showing it to you today in the browser. However, the process is exactly the same on your mobile device. We support Apple, Android, and even Microsoft phones. You can see here we have a few options. I'm going to click New Receipt, and it will prompt me to add an image file. Now, if you're doing this from your mobile phone, you would just take a live picture or use one from your camera roll. However, as you can see now, I've uploaded the file, and some of these fields have already started to populate themselves. So the date we've got as today's date. However, we can change that. Then the description, we'll put lunch at Pret. And then the vendor, you can see, has been selected from the receipt as Pret a Manger. The payment method has been selected as cash. However, if it were to be a credit card payment, we can just choose that from the drop-down list. And then the currency is also marked as pound sterling. However, we support a wide range of currencies should you need any of these when submitting. Then next, we can see the expense amount has been picked up from the receipt as £21.30. You can see an orange warning sign here, which is an example of a soft warning limit. So in this case, David will still be able to submit the expense. However, it will carry this warning sign throughout the entire approval process. We do also have the option to add hard limits. So instead of an orange warning sign, it'll be a red warning sign. And in that case, David wouldn't be able to submit the expense until it comes within the £20 limit. Next, we have itemized expense, which is useful for something such as a hotel stay, where you can have the cost of the room, breakfast, lunch, dinner, client entertainment, several different GL codes on the same receipt. So rather than having to push through a separate expense claim for each one, if you tick that box, you'll be able to separate those out on the same expense claim. So next we have a free type area in the notes section to provide some justification about the expense. So we'll just say that I was very hungry. Then the type has been selected as lunch because last time we ate at Pret, we selected lunch. However, you can also choose from the drop-down list to pick the relevant GL code or type. This is just a mirror of your Business Central system. So whatever you have set up in Business Central will appear here, and you'll be able to pick those from the drop-down list. Then the VAT amount has been picked as 20%, and it's been marked as VAT reclaimable automatically. And the amount has been picked up from the receipt. However, that will also be calculated automatically based on the percentage and the total amount. Then finally, David is in the sales team, so his department is automatically selected as sales. However, he can also choose from the drop-down list. And then if there are any projects or jobs that David is working on, he can select those as well. We actually have a two-way sync between Business Central and Zetadocs Expenses. So if you do make any changes with regards to projects or jobs within Business Central, those will automatically appear and update in Zetadocs Expenses as well. And finally, we've got an area to add a receipt. However, we've done that already, so no need to do anything there. So we'll just go ahead and save that expense, and we can see we've got one draft expense waiting. Next, I'll show you how we deal with a mileage expense. So we'll pick new expense again, and then mileage. We also support per diem allowances as well. Again, very similar view. We've got today's date, then the description will put trip to client. As to the vehicle type, we support personal cars, company cars, and fuel cards. However, if you do have any other vehicle settings, such as electric vehicles or for traveling with a passenger, you can set different rates for those as well. Our starting point has been selected as our office here in London, and our destination will be in Bristol, and we'll mark that as a return journey. So you can see that it's calculated out the distance. If I toggle this green button, you'll be able to see our integration with Google Maps, which shows how this mileage is calculated. Just the same as if you'd be putting it into your mobile device, you enter the address and it will calculate the best route for you at that given time. However, there are some options around this. First of all, you can manually change the amount in here. Secondly, you can drag and drop to change the route that was taken. For example, if there was an accident or I had to pick up a colleague, whatever it may be, I can drag and change the route to reflect the one that was taken in reality. As you can see here, the mileage is then calculated out once again. And the mileage rate, expense amount, VAT rate, and VAT amount are all grayed out because as a submitter, David doesn't have any control over these. Then again, for the notes section, we can just put diversion. And then finally, once more, we can select the department, projects, and jobs if necessary, as well as add a receipt there at the end. I won't save this expense, so I'll just cancel that. So now we're ready to go ahead and create a new expense report. So if I put new report and then new expense, the period date will be calculated automatically as the month that you're in. But again, you can change that period if you'd like. And then we can go ahead and press this plus button where any draft expenses will appear. I'm only going to include the one that I just created. We do also have offline capabilities. So for example, if you're traveling on an airplane or anywhere that you don't have internet connection, you can still create the draft expenses. Then as soon as you get internet connection, they will appear here on this screen and you're able to add those to an expense report. So we'll go ahead and add that expense that I just created, and then we'll hit submit. Next, it will take us to the approver screen, and it will give us a warning sign to let us know that we've gone over the limit, but that's okay. So the first approver has been selected as Kevin automatically. However, I do have the option to choose from a drop down or add an extra approver if necessary for this specific expense report. Then the final processor, again, as I mentioned before, will be April in the finance team, but I can choose that as well. And I also am able to add a submission comment if necessary. We'll just go ahead and submit that for the moment. And that will be David's job done. So he can now return to the home screen and see that he has one report awaiting approval. Then that takes us over to Kevin's profile. So rather than staring at Zetadocs Expenses all day, he's probably monitoring his emails. And we can see here that David's expense report has just come through. So we can go ahead and view the approval. And that will take us directly into Zetadocs Expenses and directly into David's expense report. So we can see here a bit of information around David's expense. And we can also see that some history is starting to build. So if I go ahead and click into that, I'll be able to see again a side-by-side view of the receipt on the right-hand side and the information that we've entered on the left. So it's very simple for Kevin to go ahead and analyze the information and make sure that it matches with what's on the receipt. So at this point, Kevin has a few options. He can approve or reject line by line or the report as a whole. So if David has submitted, for example, 5 expenses, 4 of those were absolutely fine, but there was an issue with the 5th. Rather than having to reject the whole report, Kevin could go ahead and just reject the 1 expense that needs help and continue along the journey with the rest of the 4 expenses. We can also go ahead and edit these fields as well. I know salespeople, for example, aren't always the best at knowing what is VAT reclaimable and what isn't. So if someone's made a mistake here on this screen, rather than having to reject the entire report and go back to the beginning, Kevin can actually go in and make the changes here, provide some justification for those changes, and then continue along the process. No need to change anything here as everything was entered correctly, but we do have that option if necessary. We can also go ahead and delegate this report if we'd like to assign it to someone else. But from Kevin's point of view, everything looks good, so no reason to reject anything. So we'll just go ahead and approve that. And it's just giving us an option for approval comment and letting us know about the warning signs, but we're aware of those, so that's absolutely fine. And that's Kevin's job now done. So that takes us finally over to April's profile. So let's say it's the end of the month. April wants to get everyone paid on time for their expenses. So she's monitoring the Zetadocs home screen. We can now see that she has one task outstanding, which is David's expense report. So if we click into that one final time, again, we'll see a bit more history building and so on and so forth. We'll click into the report and we can see once more the side-by-side view and all the information that we've submitted on the left-hand side, as well as the fact that it's been approved by Kevin. So again, we can unapprove or approve line by line all the report as a whole, and April can also go in and make those edits that we could do earlier. However, again, there's nothing to change here. Everything looks fine, so we'll just go and press back. And again, we can delegate if necessary, but we'll go ahead and approve this expense report. No need for a comment, and we're aware of the warning signs, so we'll just hit approve. Now, everything that's taken place up to this point has been outside of Business Central within Zetadocs Expenses portal. As soon as the final processor, so April in this case, presses that final approval button, Zetadocs will communicate with Business Central to create an unposted purchase invoice. There are also other options around the export, for example, posting to the general journals. However, most customers choose to go ahead with a purchase invoice. So if we just go to our reports and check the status of all of our reports, we should be able to see the one that we've just approved with today's date. And we can see that the purchase invoice 107518 has now been created. So if I pop over to our Business Central environment and go to our purchase invoices, all I need to do now is search for that specific number that we've just copied, and it will bring up the unposted purchase invoice with David's name. So if I just go ahead and search for that, I can see the unposted purchase invoice has now been created. And I can see that all of the information that we've entered within Zetadocs Expenses has now been transferred over to Business Central without the need to rekey any of that information. For example, the department code, VAT amount, and the total amount, and the GL information as well. Receipts are stored within our own portal, so you can access these by either clicking into the report directly from Business Central or by searching with a unique ID number, as you can see here, at which point you'll be taken directly into the report. And anytime there is a paperclip sign, that means that there's a receipt attached to that. We also have integration with Power BI and Excel for reporting capabilities. So you can see here, you can get some great insight into your spend and get a lot of information regarding employee expenses. Thank you very much for your time today. I hope you found it useful. If you do have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. Thanks and bye.